As a recruiter, a big part of the work I do is working alongside candidates and businesses in trying to identify the best environments for both sides. Okay. A big thing that's really important for candidates nowadays is trying to find a company with a good team culture. And a big problem that a lot of businesses have is trying to foster this team culture as best and professionally as possible. So I thought I would take some time in this video to talk about what I would value in a good company and what works for me and what doesn't. And hopefully you guys can take some insights from this and apply this to your own job searches moving forward. So first things first is KPIs with a success plan, okay? For me personally, guys, I love the idea of growing with a company, okay? I love the idea of starting at pretty much the bottom of the company's pyramid and working your way to the top internally. I love that. Okay, for me personally, I've never really been attracted to the idea of doing 2 years in one company, 2 years at another, 2 years at another, etc. etc. Okay, I understand that this works for a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. Okay, but for me personally, if I was to have it my way in a dream scenario, it would be to pretty much start at the bottom at a company and then work my way to the top. You know, I love that idea of building a career. Okay. So that ties in with my second part of this point of a success plan, but first things first is having actual KPIs. Okay, so having actual goals and actual achievements that you should be striving towards from day one. Okay, the reason being why I think KPIs are so important is, look, a lot of people, they stress about the KPIs. A lot of people think, they have these KPIs, they have these targets, and if they don't meet them, then they're going to get sacked, they're going to get flagged, etc., etc. It's going to be a lot of problems. Okay. The biggest thing to understand with KPIs is that they just keep you accountable. That's it. And what I love about KPIs is I'm somebody that is incredibly goal driven. So I love the idea of having a target and working towards that every single day. Okay? That's most important. I think if you're part of a company and they don't have a set KPI or they don't have set targets for you that you need to be meeting, I think there's definitely a conversation there to be had with your manager. Purely because when you don't know what you're working towards, every day can just you can just lose every day basically. For me, for example, with my job, I have targets over how many new leads I want to create, how many new conversations I want to be having, how many conversations I want to be having a day, how many resumes I want to be putting forward, etc., etc. So I have things that in my day I know what I'm working towards, and then say if that's my weekly target or my monthly target, I can then divide that up day by day, even hour by hour, if I want to be really structured, to then point out what I need to be doing every minute of the day. For me personally, I love that structure. I understand for some people that doesn't work, and that can be quite overwhelming for other people as well, or just boring. That's fair enough. But I definitely think if you are working in a company where you don't actually know what you're working towards, one, you really need to start to question your value at the company. But secondly, you need to understand, what is it that they're actually expecting from you? Because what's going to happen is, sure enough, down the track, you may want to move on to a new job or you may want a promotion. But if you haven't actually got any achievable or objective success, it's going to be very hard to sell yourself, So you need to have I think every company should give KPIs to candidates or to their employees, or just targets that they need to be working towards and trying to meet every single week or month or whatever the metric is. That for me is a sign of a company with a good structure and a good plan in place for you to grow. And then with that, of course, is a success plan. The company that I'm at the moment, a real reason why I'm attracted to joining them, or why I was attracted to joining them, was that they were very clear on the idea that they want to bring in some young candidates that can grow with the company. I love that. Okay. Literally, yesterday I got sat down and talked through my KPIs, and they said, okay, after 6 months, we want you to have this job title. In 1 year, we want you to have this job title. And then another 12 months from that, we want you to have this job title. Okay. So I'm looking possibly at 3 promotions in that next 18-month window. Okay. That to me is super exciting. That to me shows that if I put in the work now, in 2 years' time, I could be making a lot more money and I could be being a lot more successful in my industry. And that's all achievable by working towards the goals that they're setting me every single day. So it's very important to be motivated by something, and that's one thing that really works for me. Secondly, is a focus on the process, not the outcome. Okay, this is again really, really important. I was talking about this with my manager, and she was telling me, that in recruitment, obviously, it's very outcome driven, very KPI driven. You need to have X amount of placements. If you don't reach it, then you're going to get sacked. All right. This isn't the case, and this isn't, what you should be focused on. What you should be focused on is, for example, for a recruitment example, is focus on how many calls are you making a day, how many new leads are you finding a day, how many resumes are you putting forward a day, and then once you maintain those numbers, eventually the success will come. Okay, and that is something that really aligns with me. Okay, it's not so much about just chasing the outcome to say, if you need to find 5 placements by the end of the week, and then I start doing all of these random things, random jobs, blah blah blah, and then the next time I get that target, or mostly that target will be doubled, or at least added on. Okay, I get to the next time, and I don't know how to replicate that because everything I did the first time was rushed and a fluke and a bit lucky. Whereas if I take that step back and dedicate that extra 2 to 3 months to going by a proper sustainable process, I can achieve my targets a lot more sustainably and, secure these things a lot earlier on, more commonly, or more frequently, I should say. So working in a company that really values process over the outcome is an extreme green flag. And that's, to me, something that really, really works. Because at the end of the day, I'm extremely process driven, It's the same with a football game, for example. You know what I mean? If your team wins the game 1-0, but the opposition hits the post 10 times, yes, you won the game on that day. But if you play the exact same way every single week, that luck's gonna run out eventually. And it's the same with the process here with a placement. It's very easy just to go out and make a couple of placements, but not actually understand how you did it or why everything happened the way that it did. You could have just got lucky. Whereas if you take a step back and you actually build a process and you stick to that process and you tweak that process every now and then, you're going to achieve so much more sustainable success long term. And that's really important to me. So working with a company that doesn't stress so much about the outcome, but focuses on how you're getting to the outcome and supporting you along the way is what's really, really important to me. And hopefully that can influence you in some way as well with your own job search moving forward. My third and final point is a supportive environment, okay? I promise you this, guys, if you are in an environment where you are scared to ask questions or you genuinely feel like nervous at the idea of asking somebody something, get out of there, okay? Do not stay in an environment which does not get the best out of you, okay? You need to understand that when you're in a job, especially if you're new to the industry, you need to be asking questions. Okay, if people that you are working with are getting fed up at the idea of you asking questions, get out of there. Okay, where I'm at right now, I feel so comfortable because I not only have multiple coworkers, but I have multiple people that are successful in the industry and are eager to eager to help me learn. They're not eager to learn from me. They're eager for me to learn from them. Okay, so literally what this means is, guys, is like we'll have a meeting or something like that, or I'll have just random parts of my day where one of my bosses or one of my colleagues will check in and just be, hey, Jonathan, do you want me to follow up on this? Hey, Jonathan, do you want me to explain this for you? Hey, Jonathan, how you going here? Do you have any questions? It's those constant check-ins that are so important. And I know as well that if I go to them, hey, I have a question regarding this, I know I'm not going to be belittled. I know I'm going to be encouraged. And I know that that's going to be followed up on in a week's time to ensure that I got it. That is how you know you're in a good environment, when you are being supported and encouraged to learn. Because at the end of the day, when you're new, especially if you're new to a job, you don't know anything. You genuinely don't know anything, and it's very, very easy to just get overwhelmed because you may hear some information that you may think, oh, I should know this by now, but I still don't. That's fine. Still ask your team around you. You know what I mean? If they start telling you just Google it, it's not a good sign, especially if you're new. They need to have dedicated training, they need to have dedicated time to helping you, and they need to be patient. Don't get me wrong, if they're giving you advice and you're blatantly ignoring it and you're doing it time and time again, that's a different story, okay? You need to take some accountability there, okay? But if you genuinely just don't understand something and you've asked only a couple of times and over different times as well, and you're explaining what isn't working and why you're struggling to understand it, and they get frustrated with that, not the environment for you. And that's certainly something that I wouldn't tolerate either, okay? The biggest thing that I had when I was going into my new company was I wanted to feel supported. I was still so new to recruitment. I understood I had a passion for it. I loved it, but I understood there was still so much for me to learn. So actually dedicating time to helping me learn, or just, if I ask a question, I'm going to be supported. That was super, super important to me. Okay. And that is my third and final point in what makes a really good environment and how to know you're working for a really good company. Okay. I hope you guys got some value from this video. If you guys enjoyed and you are interested in working with me on a one-to-one level, click that link below for a free consultation. Happy to organize a 30-minute chat. Otherwise, I hope you guys got some good value from this and you guys enjoyed, and hopefully you guys can take this into your next job search moving forward. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.